Good day everyone, I am Cyrus Malaxi and today I will be discussing elementary algebra, one of the most important areas in general education mathematics, and a key component in a licensure examination for teachers or LET. So before we proceed, here are the learning objectives that you will be able to learn after our discussion. Alright, so before we begin, let me ask you, when you hear the word algebra, what comes to your mind? Is it confusing letters, difficult equations, or something intimidating? For a lot of us, it's scary equations, confusing letters, but what if we thought about it differently? What if algebra wasn't a math class, but a secret code for figuring out the world around us? Today, we are going to change that perspectives. Alright, so you've definitely done this. You're setting up chairs for a party or a school event, and you're trying to figure out, okay, how many rows do I need, and how many chairs should go in each one. That whole process, that's you thinking algebraically. Or how about this one? You know the total area you have for a bulletin board, but you need to figure out its length and width. How do you find all the possible sizes it could be? You guess it, that's algebra in action too. And I know you've done this. You see a sequence of numbers, and your brain just automatically tries to figure out what comes next. Well, when you're doing that, you're literally using the core logic of algebra to predict the future. See, the truth is your brain is already built for this kind of thinking. So our goal today isn't to teach you something totally foreign. It's to give you the official language and tools to describe what you already intuitively know how to do. So just like learning any new skill, before we can start solving the really big, interesting puzzle, we've got to learn the basics. The vocabulary, the ground rules. So what are the essential building blocks of algebra? So first up is this word polynomial. And I know it sounds super technical, but honestly, just think of it as a complete sentence in the language of algebra. It's just a string of math parts all connected together to express a single idea. So let's break that code down. So every single piece has a name and a single job. So this 5 front and 2, that's the coefficient. It just tells you how many of something you're dealing with. The x and y are the variables that are mystery number, that the thing we're trying to figure out. The little 2 up is the exponent. It tells you to multiply the variable itself, and any plain old number hanging out on its own like a plus or minus 7, that's a constant because its value is well constant. It never changes. And just like our sentences can be short or long, so can polynomials. So if it's just one term, it's a monomial. Like for example, 2x. And mono for 1. So got 2 terms, it's a binomial. Think by like a bicycle with 2 wheels. And if has 3 terms, it's a trinomial. Okay, so we've got some of the vocabulary down. What's the point of knowing these words? So how do we actually use this language to figure things out and get some real answers? So here is an example. So a school is organizing a 3-day academic camp for students. The number of participants registered for days 1 and 2 is represented by the polynomial x squared plus 3x plus 5, while the number of participants registered for day 3 is represented by 2x squared minus x plus 4, where x represents a certain number of students groups. Find the polynomial that represents the total number of participants for the entire academic camp. So to find the polynomial that represents the total number of participants, we add the expressions for day 1 and 2, which is the x squared plus 3x plus 5, and the day 3 is 2x squared minus x4 plus 4. So this is a polynomial addition problem. So we combine like terms. So the step 1 is we write the polynomials together. So the first one is we have x squared plus 3x plus 5 plus 2x squared minus x4 x plus 4. So step 2 is we group like terms. So we will group the first term here, so x squared plus 2x squared, and then the second term 3x minus x, and then 5, the last term 5 plus 4. So that's the step 2. And then after we combine like terms, we will add each group. So x squared plus 2x squared is equal to, here is, now the first one, we will add the first one, x squared plus 2x squared is we got 3x squared. So 3x minus x, we got 2x, and then 5 plus 4 is equal to 9. So the answer is, we will write the final polynomial, this 3, the first term we will have 3x squared, write this, 2x squared, and then plus 9. So the final polynomial represent the polynomial representing the total number of participants for the 3-day academic camp is 3x squared plus 2x plus 9. Alright, so now we've learned how to work with polynomials. We can identify them, add them, subtract them, multiply them, and even divide them. So we also saw how polynomials can represent real-life situations like counting the numbers of participants in a school activity or calculating areas and measurements. But here's an important question. What if we want to work backward? Instead of combining expressions, what if we want to break them apart into their original components? For example, x squared, for example, x squared plus 5x plus 6. So now imagine this. What if this is the only expression given to us, and we need to determine what two expressions were multiplied to produce it? So that process is called factoring. So factoring is the reverse of multiplication. So it helps us decompose a polynomial into simpler expressions. So we have this example: x plus 2 times x plus 3. So we will have x squared plus 5x and 6. So factoring asks what two expressions were multiplied to get x squared 5x plus 5x or plus 6. So we will decompose polynomial into simpler expression. Alright, so we have prime, before we factor algebraic expressions, we must recall factors of numbers. So we have the prime and composite numbers. So for the prime numbers, we have prime numbers has only two factors, 1 and itself. So for example, 2, you will multiply 2 by itself only, 2 times by itself and 1. So 2 times 1, 2. So there isn't another number that we can multiply to get another 2. Another is 3, and we have 5 and 7. So that's the prime number. So composite number has more than two factors, meaning you can multiply numbers more than. So for example, we can multiply 4 times 1 and we get 4. And we have also 2 times 2, we got also 4. So that's an example of composite number. Another is 6. 6 times 1, we have 6. And we have also 2 times 3 equals 6 as well. And another is 8. So 8 times 1, 8. We have also 4 times 2, 8. And for 9, 3 times 3, 9. 9 times 1, 9 as well. So this is important because factoring involves finding numbers that multiply to produce another number. So let's try this example. So a monomial has one term. For example, 6x squared. So this is a monomial because it has only one term. And this is the step-by-step solution. Factor the coefficient. So we will factor the coefficient, which is the 6. What is the factor of 6? So we have 2 times 3 equals 6. And the factor the variable x squared. So how do we get x squared? Of course, x times x. So we get x squared. So the final factored form is we have x squared, 6x squared is equal to 2 times 3 times x times x. So that's the factor of a monomial term. So we have this example again. So we have two terms. This is a binomial. So factoring polynomials using GCF. So what do we mean by GCF? It's the greatest common factor. So 6x plus 9. So the steps is step 1, find the GCF of 6 and 9. So what is the GCF of 6 and 9? So we have 3. They're common factors. So we have 3. So step 2 is we divide each term by 3. So 6x divided by 3 is we have 2x. 9 divided by 3 is we have 3. So write the factor form 3. We will write the 3 here, which is our common GCF, and then times this 2x plus 3. So this is the factor, because if we will going to times this 3 times 2x, 3 times 3, we will get 6x, 6x9, 6x plus 9, rather. So next example, we have a polynomial, a trinomial. So x squared plus 5x plus 6. So we will get the factor on how we will get the factor of x squared plus 5x plus 9. So identify numbers that multiply 6 to 6 and add to 5. Meaning, we will find a number that if we will multiply, we will get 6, and if we will add, we will get 5. For example, here, the factor of 6 is 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. But if we will add the 2, we should come up with 5. So 6 plus the first factor, we have 1 and 6. 1 times 6, 6. But if we will add 1 plus 6, we get 7. So it's no. So 2, we have another factor. 2 times 3, we get 6. But if we will add 2 plus 3, we will get 5. So we will use this factor. So we will write the factor x plus 2 and x plus 3. Got it? Because the operation here used here are all positive. So we will use positive as well. Alright, so that's how we solve that's how we got the factors. So now that we learned how to factor polynomials, we will move to another important algebraic concept that we frequently use in solving equations and real-life problems. So this topic is fractions. So fractions are not new to us because we already encountered them in elementary mathematics. However, today we will deal with algebraic fractions where numbers are replaced with variables and polynomials. So a fraction represents a part of a whole. So this is just a review. So a over b. So a is our numerator and b is our denominator. And reminder, denominator must never be 0. Alright, so here is an example. So an algebraic fraction contains variables in the numerator, denominator, or both. So example, we have x over 2, x half, 3x over x plus 1, and x squared plus 5x over x. So simplify algebraic fractions. So for example, we have 6x over 9. So the step 1, we will find the GCF of 6 and 9. Again, the GCF of 9 is we have the 3. Divide numerator and denominator by 3. So we will divide 6 and 6x and 9 to 3. So 6 divided by 3, we will have 2, and 9 divided by 3, we will get 3. So the final answer is 2x over 3. Another example, the rule denominators must be the same. So 3/5 plus 2/5. They have the same denominator. So we will add numerator. So 3 plus 2 is we will have 3 plus 2, we will have 5. But and we have same number, we will copy the same denominator, which is 5. But 5 over 5 is equal to 1. So we will get this answer. For example 2, different denominators. So 1/3 plus 1/4. So we will find the least common denominator. For 3 and 4, what is the least common denominator? We will have 12. So convert fractions. So we will convert them into 4/12 plus 3/12 because we find their common. We convert them in. We will have. We change the denominator, and the step 3, we will add the numerator. So 4 plus 3, we got 7 over 12. Another example, adding and subtracting algebraic fractions. So we have 1 over x plus 2 over x. So they have the same denominator, so we will add the numerator. So 1 plus 2, we have 3 over x. Another, a complex fraction. So a fraction where the numerator or denominator is also a fraction. So for example, we have 1/2 over 3/4. So we will multiply by reciprocal. So 1 times 4 and 2 times 3. So 1 times 4 we will get 4, 2 times 3 we get 6, and we will simplify this. So 4 over 6 we will divide that into 2, so 2/3. Alright, so now that we already know how to work with fractions and algebraic fractions, we are ready to move to another important algebra concept that is often used in geometry, engineering, construction, and problem solving. So this is the square roots. So square roots help us determine unknown lengths, measurements, and values when numbers are squared. So we have this example. So the square root of a number means multiplying the number by itself. So we got x squared because x times x is equal to x squared. For example, 5 square root of 5 is equal to 25 because we will multiply the number by itself. So 5 times 5 is equal to 25. Another example is square root of 36. So step 1, we will ask what number multiplied by itself or equals to 36. So the answer is we have 6. So 6 times 6 is we have 36. And what if we will adapt this into a real life situation? So for example, if the area of a square garden is 64 square meters, what is the length of one side? So we will get the square root of 64. So 64, this side of the square garden has 8 meters. So 8 times 8 we get 64. We will proceed to adding and subtracting square roots. So the rule is only like radicals can be added or subtracted, like radicals to the same radicand. So for example, 3 square root of 5 plus 2 square root of 5. So we will just add the coefficient because we have the same radicals. So 3 plus 2 is equal to 5 square root of 5. Another example is we have 7 square root of 7 and square root of 3 minus 4 and square root of 3. So we will just subtract the coefficient. So 7 minus 4 is equal to 3 and copy the square root of 3. So equation that contains square roots. So for example, we have square root of x equals to 6. So we will square both sides. So square x is equal to 36 because 6 times 6 is equal to 36. Now let's try this example. So a ladder is placed against a wall forming a right triangle. So the height is we have 12 meters and base of 5 meters. So find the ladder of length. So we have the square root of 12 squared plus 5 squared. And 12 times 12 is we will get 144 plus 5 times 5 we got 25. And the square root of we will add 144 plus 25, we will get square root of 169, and the square root of 169 is 13 because 13 times 13 we will get 169. So the ladder is 13 meters long. Right, so now we will apply those skills to a more advanced topic that is very important in algebra and frequently appears in the LET. So this topic is the quadratic equations. So quadratic equations help us model motions, area, business, profit, engineering designs, and many real-life situations involving maximum and minimum values. So a polynomial equation is an equation that contains variables raised to whole number exponents. So we will get x squared plus 3x plus 2 is equal to 0. So a quadratic equation is a polynomial equation of degree 2. So general form, we have ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So where a is equal or not equal to 0 and a, b, and c are constants. So a quadratic function is written as fx is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. So its graph forms a curve called a parabola. So if a is greater than 0, it is an opens upward, and if a is less than 0, it opens downward. So let's try this example. So example, we have x squared minus 4 is equal to 0. So we will write the function y is equal to x squared minus 0. So in step 2, we will graph that and identify where the graph crosses x-axis the solutions are. So we will factor this. So x is equal to 2 and x is equal to negative 2. So this is the graph. So again, if it is a positive a, it um, opens opens upward. So just like this. So this is the negative 2, 0, and it x-intercept we have positive 2 and 0. So next is we have this example downward, negative a value. So this is the formula of a quadratic equation. So we have x is equal to negative b plus minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So let's try this example. So if we have 2x squared plus 3x minus 2 is equal to 0. So we will identify the values. For a we have 2, for b we have 3, and for c we have 2. So we will substitute. So again, our formula is b, so we will we will have negative b here. So the b is 3, so we will write negative 3 plus minus 3 squared minus 4, 2 times negative 2 over 2 times 2, because our a is 2, right? Yes, our a is 2. Now we will solve it. Negative 3 plus minus is equal to 9 plus 16, we will have 25. So over 4, because 2 times 2 is 4. And then we will square the 25. Square root 25 is 5. So after that, we have the 2 sign plus minus. So we will solve this 2 times. So for the plus, negative 3 plus 5 over 2, we have negative 3 plus 5, we got 2 over 4. So we will simplify that, we will have 1/2. And then for minus, negative 3 minus 5, so we will have 8, positive of a negative 8 over 4. So we have negative 8 over 4. 8 divided by 4, we have 2. So negative 2. So our solution, we have 1/2. X is equal to 1/2 and x is equal to negative 2. Alright, so quadratic equations are powerful because they allow us to predict motions, analyze patterns, and solve complex real-life problems. So they connect algebra, geometry, physics, and real-world decision-making. And now that we understand quadratic equations, we move to deeper understanding of the number system that supports all algebraic operation. But here's an important question. Where do these solutions belong? Are they whole numbers, fractions, decimal, something else? To answer that, we must understand the complete number system used in algebra, which is the real numbers. So we have rational numbers. So rational numbers are numbers that can be written as fractions. So we have example, we have a over b, or b is equal or not equal to 0. So they include integers, fractions, terminating decimals, repeating decimals. Example, we have 1/2, negative 3, 0.75, 0.33. Step-by-step identification example is 0.25 is 0.25 a rational. Convert to fraction. We can convert this into fraction. So 0.25 is equal to 25 over 100. If we will simplify this, we will have 1/4. Since it can be written as fraction, then it is rational. What if we also have irrational numbers. So these are numbers that cannot be written as a fraction. So they have non-terminating or non-repeating decimal, like for example, square root of 2, square root of 3, or the pi. It cannot be written as a fraction. So it is an irrational numbers. So for example, square root of 2 is equal to 1.41423. So it never ends and never repeats. So it cannot be expressed as fraction. So it is irrational. Right, so let's proceed to fractional equation. So we have ratio and proportion. So a ratio compares two quantities. So for example, 3 is to 5. So a proportion states that two ratios are equal. So 3 over 5 is equal to 6 over 10. So for example, x over 4 is equal to 6 over 8. So we will cross multiply. So we have x times 8, we have 8x, and 4 times 6, we will get 24. So we will solve that. We will solve this. 8 over, we will write over 8, cancel 8x, and 24 divided by 8, we will have 3. So x is equal to 3. Another example is if 4 notebooks cost 60 pesos, how much do 8 notebooks cost? So 4 over 60 is equal to 8 over x. So we will cross multiply this. So 4 times x, we will have 4x, and 60 times 8, we will have 480. So we will divide this by 4. So we will cancel 4. So x is equal to 480 divided by 4, we will have 120. So 8 notebooks cost 120 pesos. Now we will move to inequality. So inequalities compared to expressions. So symbols use greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. So that is inequalities. Like for example, x is greater than 5, x is less than and equal to 10. This means that x greater than 5 means any number greater than 5. So what are the possible values that are greater than 5? So we have 6, 7, 8, 10, etc. So that is inequalities. So solving inequalities is similar to solving equation, but there is one important rule. When multiplying or dividing by a negative number, so reverse the inequality sign. So example, x plus 4 greater than 10. So we will subtract 4 to 10. So 10 minus 4, we will have 6. So x is greater than 6. Another example is 2 times less than and equal to 8. So we will divide by 2. So 8 divided by 2, we will have 4. So x is less than or equal to 4. So we will move to number sequences. So a number sequence is an order list of numbers that follow a pattern. For example, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So each number is called a term. So there are two types of sequences. We have arithmetic sequence and a geometric sequence. So as an arithmetic sequence, it is a sequence where the difference between consecutive terms is constant. So this constant is called the common difference. For example, 5, 8, 11, 14, 17. So the difference is plus 3. So we add 3 by each of the terms. So 5 plus 3, we will have 8. 8 plus 3, we will have 11. 11 plus 3, we have 14. Plus 3, 17. So the difference is 3. So this is the formula to get the arithmetic of the arithmetic sequence. So we have the a-nth for the nth term, the a sub 1 or the first term. The common difference is the d, and n is the term number, and minus 1 is this is constant number. So step-by-step example. So how are we going to find the 10th term of this sequence? So we will use the formula for this step. So we will substitute first. So a sub 1 is our 2. Our difference is 3, and the nth is 10. So because we will going to find the 10th term. So substitute is equal to 2 plus 10 minus 1 times 3. So 10. So 2 plus 10 minus 1 is 9 times 3, 27. So the 2 plus 27, the 10th term is 29. So a sequence where we are done with arithmetic sequence. We will move to geometric sequence. So a sequence where each term is multiplied by a constant number. This number is called the common ratio. In arithmetic sequence we have common difference. Here in geometric sequence we will have common ratio. So for example, 3, 6, 12, 24. 48. So what number are we going to multiply to get the next term? So 3 times 2, we have 6. 6 times 2, we have 12 times 2, 24 times 2, 48, and so on. So our common ratio is 2. So there is also a formula for geometric sequence. So we have a sub n is equal to a sub 1 times ratio to the n to the power of n minus 1. So step by step example, we have this example. So we will find the sixth term. 2, 4, 8, 16, and what is the sixth term? So we will find the answer by using the formula. So step 1, we will substitute. Our a sub 1 is 2. A sub 1, we have 2. Our ratio is 2, and our um, n is 6. So a sub 6, our a sub 6, because we are going to get the sixth term, is equal to 2 times our ratio is 2, and n minus 1 is 5. So we have 6. So the formula is minus 1. So we will minus 1, so 5. 2 times 2 to the 5th power is 32. So 2 times 32, we have 64. Alright, so number sequence allow us to predict future values, so identify patterns and make decisions based on trends. So they are used in finance, science, economics, and everyday planning. So understanding sequences strengthens logical thinking and prepares us for the higher mathematics. So in this lesson, we explore the core concept of elementary algebra that are essential for let preparation. So we discussed polynomials, factoring, algebraic functions, and so on. So each topic was connected to real life situation to show how algebra helps us analyze patterns, solve problems, and make logical decisions. So elementary algebra is more than solving equations. It is a tool for understanding and interpreting the world around us. So by mastering these foundational concepts and practicing regularly, you will build the confidence and skills needed only for the licensure, not only for the licensure examination for teachers, but also for the effective classroom teaching. Alright, so always remember that mathematics is not just about numbers, it is about recognizing patterns, solving problems, and understanding the world logically. So keep on practicing, stay focused, and trust in your preparation. So good luck, and thank you for watching.